my friends, my fellow Singaporeans. It is burning out here, and I'm sure you must be feeling the heat too. But I think the PAP is feeling a little hotter than we are right now. I thank you for showing up for this massive support, and all I can say is a very heartfelt and big thank you. The PAP team in Holland Bukit Timah has repeatedly accused our economic policies of being one of tax and spend, and that our policies will lead Singapore to ruin. Now, I don't know whether Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan has read Sun Tzu Ting Fa, Sun Tzu's Art of War, because if he has, he will note that the cardinal rule of any contest is to know your own weaknesses before you launch your attack. He and his teammates are accusing the SDP of all things, tax and spend. Don't you think that's a bit rich coming from Dr. Balakrishnan, who blew a hole in the YOG budget and overspent by $300 million? Now, the real question is not how much a government spends, but what priorities it gives for its expenditure. On this score, the PAP has demonstrated a shockingly lack of judgment. Take, for example, healthcare. The government spends, by proportion, one of the lowest levels in the healthcare among OECD countries. When most industrialized economies, the government spends about 70% of their total healthcare expenditure. Singapore PAP government spends only about 30%. When the SDP calls this out, the PAP responds by increasing the budget by $4 billion. And then it makes a big song and dance of the whole matter. But listen carefully. I want you to note this. The $4 billion increase is over 5 years. $4 billion might sound like a lot. But let me put it into perspective for you. It is the same amount of money that Temasek Holdings offered in 2014 in a highly questionable investment in Olam International, which was a debt-ridden company. Market watchers and investors almost across the board decried the move. $4 billion is also the amount that Temasek paid, if you remember, for Shincorp. It was an investment that ultimately ended up in smoke. Madam Ho Ching, the CEO of Temasek and wife of Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, came under intense fire for not doing due diligence in the matter. And if you still think that $4 billion is a lot of money, and wait till you hear this. In 2008, the GIC and Temasek admitted that they had lost a combined sum of 120 to 140 billion dollars. They had lost the amount in the investments in Western banks like Citigroup, UBS, Merrill Lynch, and Barclays. And all this happened when the US financial system went into a meltdown in 2008. This is despite warnings from observers like Warren Buffett and Nouriel Roubini. Even billionaire investor Mr. Jim Rogers had warned, and I quote, "It grieves me to see that Singapore is doing what Singapore is doing. They," and he was referring to GIC and Temasek, "are going to lose money," unquote. In the second half of 2007, just before the crisis in the US happened, Swiss bank, UBS, had written off $33 billion due to bad debts and exposure to the US subprime crisis. Despite this, the GIC incredibly injected nearly US $10 billion into the bank in December that year. 4 months later, just 4 months later, UBS wrote down another $19 billion. And then the GIC made another investment of about $6.9 billion. I don't know why they like this number 6.9 so much. But they made another $6.9 billion US in January of 2008. This time in Citigroup. Within months, the bank collapsed and had to be rescued by a bailout of more than $300 billion from the US government. Not to be outdone, Temasek Holdings announced in July 2007 that it had invested $4.5 billion in Barclays Bank. That same year, the bank announced a $2.7 billion write-down. Temasek also invested in Merrill Lynch, investing $5 billion in the bank in 2008. That same year, the bank went bust and had to be overtaken by the Bank of America. All four banks, Citi, UBS, Merrill Lynch, and Barclays, had all invested in the Bernie Madoff scam. What were they thinking in the GIC and Temasek? And mind you, sometimes we lose track of the fact that this is all our money, our CPF reserves, our foreign reserves. Where is it all going? Where has it all gone to? Let me give you an idea. Mr. John Thain, he was the CEO at that time of Merrill Lynch. Mr. Thain had spent $1.2 million of his company to renovate his office. $1.2 million just to renovate his office, including, and now all this is in US dollars, including $87,000 for a rug, $25,000 for a table, another $87,000 for office chairs, $35,000 for a commode. That's toilet bowl to you and I. And get this, $1,400 for a waste paper basket. That's where our money went to. And then, when the PAP tells us that it is going to increase our health care, Medisure Life, and put $4 billion into it. That's like $3 billion US. It starts tooting its horn, throwing confetti and doing cartwheels. Now Dr. Balakrishnan wants to lecture the SDP on tax and spend. In the meantime, our hospitals face repeated shortages of beds and have to put patients along hospital corridors and makeshift tents. You've read it. I'm not making this up. You may have experienced yourselves. You may have gone to the hospital or brought your elderly parent to the hospital, and some of you have had to wait as long as sometimes one day for them to be admitted and get a bed in a ward. Priorities. Priorities. This government accuses us of coming up with policies of tax and spend. But what they will do is take our reserves, go out, and make all these failed investments, and then tell us that they're going to increase our healthcare spending by $4 billion in 5 years. This is the kind of situation that we have when there is no effective opposition in Parliament. When there is no opposition like the SDP in Parliament to check on the PAP. And because there is no opposition in Parliament, effective opposition, the PAP does as it pleases, making dangerously wrong decisions without proper scrutiny and accountability. My fellow Singaporeans, we go to the polls in 5 days. You have the chance right now to put this right, to protect yourselves, and to elect SDP MPs who will look out for you and be your voice in Parliament. Now, people ask me, why did I choose to go to Holland Bukit Timah GRC? It's a place, a constituency, where all the rich people are. And they are all so rich and contented that they will vote for the PAP. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. If I did, I would not stand in the GRC. I believe that the wealthy segment of our society care deeply about what is happening around them. I believe that compassion is innate in all of us. I believe that the residents in Bukit Timah, those living in Wharton Estate, the Trevose Merrin area, the 6th Avenue area, Namli area, King's Coronation Road. I have visited you whenever I can, and I have spoken with some of you. And I know that you care. You care that our elderly poor can't cope with daily expenses. You care that 94-year-old Misuse gets a free daily lunch, but she has to keep some of it aside because she cannot afford more. She says, I eat a little and I split the meal into lunch and dinner. A 94-year-old having to save a lunch for dinner. You care about Chee giving her 3 children only biscuits for recess. because she cannot afford anything else. She says, sometimes my children look down on themselves. You care about Tae Soon Kin, a cleaner who earns so little that he goes to the temple at least 3 times a week to eat free meals so that he can save his income for his family. You care. I know you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't have volunteered to be our polling and counting agents. Call me naive, but I believe in the innate goodness of human beings. I believe in my fellow Singaporeans. I believe that we are a good, compassionate people. We have been led astray. We have been told repeatedly that no one owes us a living. It's every man for himself. What you make is what you keep, and you don't share. No, that's not what we are about. If I have my way, that is what Singapore is going to be. Social and economic inequality in Singapore is striking. It is ugly. I don't have to tell you. You've seen it for yourselves. We have the riches of the rich, and then we have our elderly having to collect cardboard to push to sell. In terms of income disparity, ours is one of the worst among advanced economies. Now I want to make it very clear. I want to make very clear the SDP stand, and that no one misunderstands our position. We are not opposed to wealth, but wealth inequality. The widening income gap harms the common good. Wealth polarization brutalizes society. It erodes cohesiveness. It corrodes values that foster social togetherness. It fuels resentment and ultimately instability. You compare the level of well-being and happiness indicated by citizens. There is a very distinct trend. Societies that are more equal are the happier societies. If you look at some of the countries, for example in South America, where there's a wide income disparity, where the rich live completely exclusively from the rest of society, you find that society breaks down. Crime rate goes up. Education suffers. We've got to guard against that. Let me relate to you a story that an anthropologist told. He was playing with children from an African tribe, and he placed candy in a little basket at the foot of a tree, and he called the children to come and play this game. He explained to them that the children, once he gave the word go, all of them had to run to the tree and get the candy. The first one to arrive it will get all the candy. The children then all lined up, waiting for the signal to go. When he said, go, all the children took each other by the hand, and they ran together towards the tree. They all arrived at the same time, divided up the candy, sat down and happily enjoyed the candy together. The anthropologist couldn't understand why, so he asked the children, why did they all run together when any one of them could have had the candy all to themselves? The children responded, ubuntu. They have one word in Africa called ubuntu. How could any one of us be happy if all the others were sad? South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu explained, and I quote, "One of the sayings in our country is ubuntu, the essence of being human. Ubuntu speaks particularly about the fact that you cannot exist as a human being in isolation. It speaks about our interconnectedness. You can't be human all by yourself. We think of ourselves too frequently as individuals, separated from one another, whereas you are connected, and what you do affects the whole world, affects humanity." I know the compassion of my fellow Singaporeans. I've experienced it firsthand on numerous occasions. I sell my books, and it is a source of income for me and my family. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, since my first publication, Dare to Change. And I've been selling it just across the road from here, at Raffles Square Place. I'm sure many of you have seen me doing it over the years. I try to sell as many books as I can during elections, and that will have to tide us over for the next couple of years. So, shameless plug, please buy a copy today. In between, I get fellowships or grants, sometimes fees for my contributions in book chapters and newspapers. They're not a lot, but enough to get by. And then there is you. You have come by and contributed, and that has made a difference. One afternoon, as I was selling my latest book, Democratically Speaking, with my kids, and I was just doing right across the street. We turned around, that corner is where I was selling it. And I posted this picture of me and my son and daughter on my Facebook this morning. And I was selling it, and along came this gentleman. He walked up, and he said he wanted to buy a copy. So I signed a copy, and I passed it to him. He handed me a box of cupcakes. In it there was an ang pao. When I later on checked, there was a $10,000 note in there. I didn't get a chance to say a proper thank you, because by the time I opened the ang pao, he was long gone. My daughter turned to me and she said, "He's like an angel, isn't he?" You know who you are, and I thank you. Throughout my life, my political life, there have been angels that have blessed us with their compassion. They're not always in terms of cash, but their deeds often give me the encouragement to go on with my work. I want to in particular cite you one example. His name is Chee who produced the film Behind the Man. about my family. Some people who are more cynical will say that I engaged this PR company to do this PR work for me. I ask you, please, don't insult, don't rubbish the sacrifices that some of these people make. I have not met Bipin before until a few months ago. He contacted me through a mutual friend, and he said that he wanted to do this film. My wife, May, was initially reluctant because Bipin said he wanted to film us in our flat, a 3-room flat. Through the years, my life has become an open book, often for ridicule and attack by the PAP and its supporters. I hope you don't begrudge me and my wife to take our home as a little sanctuary where, when we close the door, it's just us and our children in our little corner of the world, and where the PAP cannot get in. But Bipin persuaded us that he would not be intrusive and he will respect our boundaries. So we said okay, and he spent 2 weekends shooting the scenes. He got his own crew, sound man, the cameraman, the lighting guy, makeup artist, and he paid for the entire project himself. The result is for all of you to watch. May and I just want to thank him for his labor of love. And just the other day, we found an anonymous note in one of our collection boxes. It read, "Please, take my money. Do whatever you want with my money. Buy some Haagen-Dazs for yourself." I don't care, she said. No, wait, I do care. This money can buy a can of milk powder for my kid, some books and some toys. This bit of money, it is a symbol that our hopes are with you. You can change tomorrow. My kid, today she drinks less milk, but maybe tomorrow she can have a better tomorrow. Yes, there are angels today. This is why I know that the wealthy in Bukit Timah will hear our message of compassion and the need for transparency and accountability, and vote for the SDP come Friday. We ask you to vote for the SDP because we are a party of character. I believe anytime that character is the most important trait that you need to look for in an MP. The PAP keeps suing the opposition, taking them to court, suing us for defamation. Why? Because they say we have damaged its reputation. I say that reputation is temporary, character is permanent. Folks, we have less than 5 days before the polls. I want all of you to think about what happens on Saturday morning. Imagine waking up and finding status quo, or worse, that PAP has retained all its seats. I want you to think about it because it is not an unimaginable situation. If everybody gets scared and leaves it to the next constituency to vote for the opposition and says, not in my backyard, and then you wake up with the nightmare that there is little to no opposition in the next parliament. Think about what's going to happen. You're talking about the population policy. The PAP will take it that you are going to endorse the 6.9 million population white paper. That you are giving it a free hand in continuing to raise the withdrawal age for your CPF. That you think that the cost of living is a small issue that doesn't affect you. On the other hand, now I want you to be more hopeful and picture this. So really picture this. Friday, Saturday morning, you wake up and you get the news that you have 11 SDP MPs in Parliament. You will find that we are going to get into Parliament and work on these issues that we promised you. That is something that we pledge to you. And this is what keeps me going. And what has kept me going all these years. The fact that all of you care about what happens to the rest of us. About what happens to this country. That is enough to keep my colleagues and I in the SDP fighting. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for all your support all these years. Thank you, and have a great day ahead. Thank you very much.